Yo, what's up, guys? Another disappointing loss today for Milan, losing to Napoli 2-1. Now, guys, what can we say about this game today? Another disappointing loss by Milan. Coming off an international break, the team had not been together for a couple weeks, of course, and you could obviously see that in their play, especially in that first half. Another horrendous first half by Milan today, guys. Like, an inexcusable first half again, especially made it into the game. Once again, showing that Milan's defensive line is completely inept. Giving up a goal a minute 30 into the match, guys, to Politano. Great goal, by the way. Don't get me wrong. It was a spectacular goal. Beautiful ball by Di Lorenzo. But, man, oh, man, Milan's defending on that goal was absolutely brutal. It's a microcosm of Milan's season, guys. Giving up early goals. Defensive line is too high, getting beat with the chip through balls. It's like absolutely unbelievable how this team here cannot figure out how to defend. It has absolutely been the Achilles heel of this team this entire season, guys. Like I said, man, it's like mind-blowing to me how this team here has so much talent, but they cannot seem to figure it out on the field, guys. And it only got worse in the first half. We saw the first goal given up off a bad defensive error. Even the second goal was even worse. Lukaku wide open in the box. It's like, where the hell is the defense, honestly? Like, everyone's all over the place. There's no organization, no communication between the defenders. Lukaku buries it to make it 2-0 Napoli, 20 minutes into the game. And we're just thinking to ourselves, why couldn't the international break just continue? Honestly, because us Milan fans have been living a nightmare this entire bloody season, of course. And it continued on in this game. Now, I will say this, though. Despite the game going in 2-0 at halftime, we saw what happened with the starting 11 today with Joao Felix starting over Rafa Leao. We heard about the other news with Cheek and Chow. I'm going to get into that a little bit later on. But first half was brutal. Felix, horrendous first half. That was brutal as could be since he's been in a Milan shirt. Completely invisible. Bondo came out at halftime, guys. He didn't have a great half either. So Conte did make some changes. We saw him bring on Rafa Leao to start. So it looked good in the second half, I will say. I thought Milan were the better team, guys. As soon as Rafa came into the game changed, of course. Because Rafa's a dynamic player, and he gives Napoli a living hell when he's on the field. He causes trouble for them every time he's on the pitch. We know when he goes to the Maradona, he puts on a show there. And Rafa had a really good second half. I thought he was solid, Like I said, once he came in, the game changed. He subbed out Felix, who, like I said, was brutal. Shifted Pulisic to the middle, put in Chukwueze on the right wing, dropped Reinders down to the double pivot. I thought Chukwueze had a decent cameo as well. I thought he was really good when he came in. Guys, obviously he didn't score, but I thought he was doing some good things. Teo, I thought, had a really decent second half, especially he drew a penalty, of course. He got an assist on the goal by Luka Jovic, of course, which is a really good goal, really good cameo as well by Luka Jovic. We saw Santiago Jimenez come in, and then we saw what happened with him, missing that goddamn penalty, guys. If he makes that bloody penalty, it's a 2-2, it's a 2-1 game, possibly 2-2, because we saw what happened with Jovic later on. But once again, guys, penalty controversy again. Why in God's name is Christian Pulisic not taking the bloody penalties? Honestly, like, Leao had the ball, gave it to Pulisic, and then Pulisic gives it to Jimenez to get his confidence up because he hasn't scored a goal in a while. Listen, that's great and all. Great teammate, Christian Pulisic. But you're the bloody penalty taker. We're down 2-0. You got to take the penalty shot, Christian. Okay? You got to be a little bit more selfish. If you are the designated taker, take the bloody penalty. Because if Pulisic does score the penalty that Jimenez misses, Jovic goes on to score. It could have been a 2-2 game. And I'm telling you guys right now, Conte would have been seething with Napoli dropping a 2-0 lead that late on to the game. And listen, we all know the rumors with Conte and maybe coming to Milan finally after missing out on him or not choosing to pick Antonio Conte as our next manager. So, unfortunately, Milan didn't tie the game up. Napoli went on to win the game 2-1, obviously. But Milan showed signs where they were really threatening. And then, obviously, Jimenez missed the penalty, and that deflated them. Then Jovic scored that goal to make it 2-1. Milan tried to press, but listen, when you're managed by Antonio Conte, it's really hard to give up multiple goals in a game. Napoli stood their ground, really solid defensively, of course. And then Milan's management, we look at these idiots And we all know what's going on with the club, guys. We see how stupid they are in their decision-making. And then you see a team like Conte, organized, good ball movement. He's always shouting on the sidelines, barking orders. I'm not saying Conte Sal doesn't do that, but Antonio Conte, we know he's a serial winner. And Conte Sal's won trophies too, but we know Conte's done it in Serie A, right? And he has proven it time in and time out. But guys, listen, once again, another lackluster performance by Milan. Not playing 90 minutes, only playing for a half. They could have easily gotten a result today against Napoli if they started Leao, but Leao, unfortunately, couldn't start because Conte Sal came out and said after the game there was some fatigue in his thigh, and then we find out about Malik Chow, about how he was vomiting in the morning, and had a stomach issue, and then Ruben Loftus-Cheek, the cherry on top of it all. Honestly, guys, this guy gets an appendicitis after being out for like 5 months, finally ready to return, and this guy's got to go to the hospital and get his appendix taken out. Honestly, guys, that's it for me with Ruben Loftus-Cheek. I'm sorry. I wish him nothing but the best. I hope he gets better, but this guy cannot be wearing a Milan shirt next year. Not a bloody chance in hell, guys. No way. They have to sell multiple players, guys. We know there's going to be a massive upheaval in the summer. This team is not good enough, obviously. The purchases have not worked out. The only 2 purchases that have worked out are Pulisic and Reinders, of course. So Milan's management, they need to completely reevaluate everything. They shouldn't even have jobs, to be honest. I think we all know that. But they are the biggest problem and why we are where we are today. Conte Sal, obviously, he does some things that get him in hot water, of course. Not starting Leao some games. Obviously, I'm not saying today, but in previous games, of course, certain formations and stuff. He wanted to play like a 4-1-4-1, but he couldn't because what happened with Cheek and Leao and everything else. So things got all screwed up today, he said. Everything happened is what he mentioned, of course. But listen, at the end of the day, there's not an excuse. You got to go out there and get results. Milan didn't do that today. Napoli's fighting for the title, of course. Only 3 points behind Inter, so they really needed these 3 points today because they've been drawing games left and right, only winning 1 game in their last 6, I'm pretty sure. So Napoli desperately needed this win today. It would have been great if Milan could have gotten a point today or, even a win, because all this stuff with Conte going on and Paratici, guys, I'll be honest with you, and I'll tell you guys bluntly, I want Napoli to lose every game or drop as much points as possible to the end of the season because I want Conte to leave Napoli and I want him to come to Milan. That's just how it is. I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. Milan need to rectify their mistake from last summer by not hiring Conte, and that is only going to happen if Napoli starts slipping in the table, guys, these last 9 weeks of the season. It's the only way. They have to finish off negatively for Conte to even consider leaving Napoli, because if they finish off strong, and if they possibly win the title, there's no way in hell he's going to leave Napoli to come to Milan. So, I'll tell you guys right now that whatever happens in the summer, Conte will be my number 1 option for Milan to go after. If not, it's going to be De Zerbi. But unfortunate loss today, guys. We'll talk about the coaching and what happens with the sporting director later on, guys, when the season's over. But I'm telling you guys right now, this has been an extremely difficult season to watch. I think a lot of us fans could agree that we just can't wait for the season to be done with, and let's just hope for a way better summer transfer window and more better players coming in, a better manager, of course, coming in, because we all see where Napoli is and we see all where Milan is. Things have been going in completely the opposite direction of what we expected, guys. And it's very unfortunate, to say the least. But guys, that's it for this video today. Thank you very much for watching. As always, guys, if you like this video. Subscribe if you guys want to see more content. Forza Milan sempre, guys. And remember, if you do not watch sports, you're a more. Ciao, guys.